It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hola, gringos and gringas. Welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. Before we get started, please hit that share button so we can educate more patriots around the world. Today we start in Houston, Texas, where an unbelievable video captures the moment a school baseball coach was chased down by 4 angry middle schoolers, all because he asked them not to ride their dirt bikes at school. One of the things that's slipping under the radar is how violent your classrooms are becoming. How children who have been given no boundaries, children who are not told that there are any limits to their own appetites and their own moods, whose own desires and the things they want at the moment should be given to them. We should not be the least bit surprised that discipline is completely disappearing from the public schools, and that's giving rise to horrific examples of violence. Take a look at this chase now from the story we're going to cover first.
A chase and beatdown on the Langham Creek High School campus caught on cell phone video yesterday. Cy-Fair ISD officials say that the attackers are 4 students from Aragon Middle School. Students here at the high school say that the victim is a baseball coach who told the middle school kids that they could not ride dirt bikes on campus.
Later that day, they got arrested, and their older friends threatened to shoot up our school.
Cy-Fair ISD officials say a threat made through social media resulted in beefed up security and safety measures on campus today.
We couldn't walk around unless we had an ID badge. They wouldn't even let us in. I have athletics first period, so I don't have it on, and my teacher wouldn't let me in unless I put it on.
Students say that the coach was not at school today. Cy-Fair ISD officials sent a letter to parents saying that the juveniles who attacked him were taken into custody and will be disciplined according to the code of conduct.
That just cannot happen. These kids definitely need to get in a whole lot of trouble, and I'm just speechless.
You're speechless, but this is happening everywhere, and this is going to be controversial, I'm sure, but anytime a school shooting happens, that's when we get the politics and we jump in as to what's happening and try and, end it. This is our opportunity. But every day we're having physical assault happening, if it's student to student, student to a teacher. In this case, it's 4 middle schoolers. You're 12, 13, 14-year-olds beating up a baseball coach. Why? Because they wanted to ride their dirt bikes. It has nothing to do with anything that's actually educational, and yet we're only concerned when it becomes something that we can jump on politically, because this is not politically sexy. I mean, this is just 4 teenagers jumping a grown man.
Well, no one's going to tell you this, and no one's going to be surprised either. These are 4 African-American kids. And you have and we're going to see more African-American violence on campuses from younger people as well before we're done today. And you are not helping the problem by pretending that your anti-racism, your critical role, your wokeness requires that you not mention them. Not only are our African-American kids our most vulnerable kids, they're the kids who are lagging behind the most, they are the ones who are in need of the most structure, not the least. When you remove all structure, particularly from African-American kids in schools, because you don't want to see them punished for their actions because it seems disproportionate, you are not helping them. You are encouraging this kind of behavior. It's a horrible thing to point out, but it is necessary. The only way to fix these problems is to meet the needs of these kids where they are. And if it is indeed African-American kids who are responsible for a disproportionate amount of this violence, the answer is not to forgive the violence because too many African-Americans are in jail. This is how you get African-American kids in jail, not intervening when you can. And I was just disgusted by what the school said. These 4 juveniles who didn't act like juveniles will be dealt with according to the code of the school. No, that's not good enough. You got 4 middle school kids chasing down and beating a baseball coach. This is not something you fix with the code of conduct as elucidated in our behavioral policies at the school. This is a matter for the police.
And the fact that you heard the one female student say how, they talked to their older friends and the older friends threatened to shoot up the school.
Shoot up the school.
Okay, so now, as I said in my previous comment, the only time we pay attention is when a school shooting happens. However, if their older friends look like them, then this wouldn't be a national story. And I'm not going to go down that entire line of thought, because I want to just get to the point that the simple fact that this is just common, like, oh, we're just going to shoot up the school if we don't get our way, and that more parents aren't saying, well, my kid's not going to this school anymore. It's just like, okay, still kid, shove off and go to school.
Really brilliant analogy you just made, and I'm not going to let it go by that quick. You're exactly right. If this school were to be shot up by African-American older children, this would not be the same thing as these schools shot up by white kids. There would not, that would the amount of time it's spent in the news, the national import would be greatly diminished, because we're not going to call out, as we've seen in the past, when the shooters are black, we don't want to take responsibility for it. And what you're going to get by not engaging in this kind of discipline for those kids is more of it down the road. And then you keep covering it up, and you keep getting more of it, and then some idiot's going to blame guns, right?
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
All right, we're going to head over to Nevada now, where we have more cell phone video of assaults, because, as we know, if there's an assault happening, we're just going to get our cell phone out. No need to actually intervene. This comes from Las Vegas in Clark County, where a female student beat another female student. And to say she beat her is an understatement, I think. And what you're going to watch here, and I can't stress enough, if there are little kids in the room, just get them out. Or if you're like me and was still visibly shaken by having to watch this video yet again, just be warned that it is what I view as quite graphic. You're going to see a female student beat another female student, and you're going to hear that everyone's just kind of like laughing in the background or really not doing anything. The teacher, we assume, is doing nothing. We're not quite sure if the teacher, there is kind of someone who's like, stop, and then kind of tries to get the stop. We don't know if it's the teacher or if it's a student, but anyway, that person quickly just gave up. And you're gonna, if you count, someone did count, the video is showing about 18 seconds of a girl beating, pounding another girl's head, and it's going against the desk then, because the girl tried to fight, and then you're going to see that the girl stopped fighting because she was knocked out.
This video captures a moment a high school student was beaten repeatedly by another student in the classroom. Parents turned to social media to express their outrage after watching this video.
After watching that video, talk to me about the immediate thoughts. What comes to mind when you see that?
Initially, nobody helped her. The one student, even trying to help, put very little effort into helping her fellow student.
The girl was punched in the head repeatedly, and someone in the video, possibly a teacher, tells a student punching to stop while extending their arms to her. But the girl does not stop. Students say they heard about the fight, but when they saw it, they were in complete disbelief.
After watching that video, I don't know, I feel weird. I was like, oh my God, you know? Like, I was just like, I couldn't watch it no more after that.
You could hear the punches in the video and how loud they were, and she just didn't stop.
Wow.
And you know, I teach at a university where my university kids are getting a stiff dose of toxic masculinity in all their classes, about how men are toxic, and perhaps the young boys we saw in the previous video are toxic. I don't know. But the idea that women and young girls aren't toxic as well in a toxic culture like the American public school systems, it is a petri dish. Understand this. The public schools are a petri dish. They are not a discouragement from this kind of behavior. The entire surrounding element at the public schools encourages this kind of violence, this kind of disregard for human life, this kind of disregard for rules and regulations and common decency. Again, the petri dish in which these germs, these toxic germs grow, is the public school system with its lack discipline, with its completely skewed morality, with its treating, with some issues, you're treating kids as young as 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 as if they were adults, and you're treating 18 and 17 and 16-year-old kids like they're babies. Time has got to stop to fight this thing now. You can't reclaim this. Go, I remember when Barack Obama, under his watch, went back to his Dear Colleague letter where he suggested far too many black kids, far too many minority kids get punished at school, and that's racism. So we have to remove all real discipline from the classroom, and what do? You get a lot more of it, not less.
And in per usual fashion, the Clark County School District said they are aware of the matter and they are investigating. The school district said, they cannot comment on what kind of disciplinary action was taken due to privacy laws, but they went to say in general, students can face administrative disciplinary action at school or be referred to law enforcement for possible criminal prosecution, depending on the severity of the matter. And we did find out that there was a Las Vegas high school student who was cited for battery. I wonder if it's that one. But of course, Principal Ronnie Gerzin sent an email to the parents regarding the altercation. Earlier this week, your student may have witnessed an altercation in one of their classes. The fact that it's earlier this week, meaning you didn't get on it right away, and that it's an altercation says it all.
Well, an altercation sounds like there's two people fighting each other.
Well, she's trying to defend herself.
When an attack is probably the word.
Yes, administration is aware and responding to this matter, and it's being addressed through the appropriate channels. As a reminder, we expect all students to adhere to the Student Code of Conduct. Please discuss with your student appropriate behavior on campus. If that doesn't sound like the most pre-printed, sent through the lawyers to make it sound clean and not at all, controversial, I don't know what that is.
This last bit is stunning. The district is asking people, listen to this, not to share the video, saying, quote, "We strongly encourage students and members of the community not to share the footage of this incident or any student fights. Showing this video serves no purpose other than to further ridicule and embarrass the victim and embolden the bullies." So shedding light on the horror that took place benefits the bully and does nothing but shame the victim. I got news for you, school. If it weren't for the public publicity of all of this, there would have been a lot less justice for the girl who was beaten and a lot more scrutiny, justified scrutiny now, because that video's out, on you and your tactics at that school.
But I'm going to take that two ways, because as it was put out initially, it was put on social media, and social media parents are outraged. Because of what social media has done, and we're going to see it again in the next story, we get outraged at the moment on the social media, and then it just passes by. Because this is happening so much and they're putting it on social media so much, that's why in these classrooms, no one helps the victim. Hold on, let me get my cell phone out, because I'm going to tape this and I'm going to put it out there. And then no actual healing is done, no actual action is taken, because I'm just outraged on the social media and I did my due diligence, and that's as far as it goes.
But you know what? So screwed up are the rules. Say a young boy stood up, and to get that girl off, he punched her or knocked her down and sat on her until the police came. I would not put it past these schools to attack that young boy for intervening. Because you weren't going to stop that girl from getting beaten without violence, right? The teacher herself or somebody couldn't pull her off. Somebody was going to have to knock her down. And if it had been a young man who did that, he'd be in trouble too for intervening. That's how they play this game.
I agree. That is exactly probably what would happen. But then there'd be that many more people who would take that, hopefully parents, as a learning opportunity. Say, if this is happening in your school, do what this boy did. Do what this boy did. Because we need more students, we need more parents to tell their students that if you see an injustice, such as someone being physically beaten in front of you, and you don't intervene, you are just as guilty as what happened to that girl.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
Well, we're just going to have yet another incident of bullying, and again, it's a girl bullying incident. In South Carolina, a 6th grade student from Ladies Island Middle School in Beaufort was charged at least she was charged, after she was caught on camera bullying another student. Now, this was in a girls' locker room, and so obviously, hold on, I'm going to get my cell phone out and tape it. And I guess in this instance, we wouldn't have known it happened unless you did have the cell phone, because you don't have adults usually around. But again, it seems like the adults aren't doing anything anyway. So you're going to see in this film a much larger girl holding a much smaller girl, and it's like she's holding her like by the hair, and you're just going to listen to what she says, and then there's going to be an instant at the end where you see what happens to the little girl. Again, it's not pretty to look up, but just take a look.
You don't like it when people do that to you, right? You wouldn't like it, right? So don't do it again. Don't. Now put down my mama, boy. I will hurt you. Don't do it again.
So based on what the big girl was saying, you don't like it when people do that to you, right? You wouldn't like it, so don't do it again. So then naturally, the larger girl's like, I'm just going to shove you and knock your head into that, which you heard the thud, knock into the bench. And if she would have hit the corner of that bench at the right spot, this may be an entirely different story. Now, thankfully, the victim is somewhat okay. We don't know really ultimately how much this is going to affect her life, but the fact that that is happening, and it seems to just be like a normal thing. This is a locker room where there are other students in there. Why are we just filming it and not doing anything?
Well, as the victim was lying on the ground, the larger girl taunted her, saying, quote, "I will hurt you," unquote. The larger girl also threatened the victim, saying that she would stomp the victim's face in. "You can go now, bye," the attacker said as the victim ran out of the locker room. Principal Chavon Brown said that, quote, law enforcement is investigating and the school is taking appropriate steps to ensure that the situation is handled according to the Beaufort County Student District Code, blah, blah, blah. The boilerplate, we do not condone any acts of violence in our school. But you know what you do? You do condone it. I mean, you don't want it to happen, but what do you do to stop it? You know, here's the odd thing. When it comes to adult, well-developed boys walking into girls' locker rooms and leering or appropriating shower time for their own selfish little needs, this is not a problem to you. I mean, the bathrooms are apparently places that have become jungles on high school and middle school campuses. It's who has the greatest force, who's the most powerful that rules the roost there. It would seem to me that you would have these places policed. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And as far as this, you know, your boilerplate there, this is another clear example of assault and battery. It's not just assault, it's assault and battery. It's a very dangerous thing that she did to that little girl. A girl, 1/4 of her size. And so you go, where's there ought to be national anger about this. There ought to be serious, the same kind of serious conversations American parents have forced on the issue of critical race theory should be brought from the school's perspective to national attention, but they're not that interested in that apparently.
Now, you didn't actually finish the rest of what they, not condoning and all that, because as they say, they strive to provide a safe, productive learning environment for our students each day. Now, the good news is we do know the assaulter was charged with third-degree assault and battery, as well as making threats. So that's on the police, though, not the school, because the school's too busy not caring.
So what do we got here? We have 3 really disgusting episodes today of violence from across a spectrum of schools. And this is not one part of the country. It's not a middle school problem or a high school problem. It's not exclusively a racial problem, although race clearly played a major part in 2 of the 3 stories we showed today. But this violence has got to stop. And the one thing that we've done at the national level is insist that this weird notion of disparate influence, disparate harm, right? The one reason we're not allowed really to discipline our classrooms, because it seems like in inner cities, minority kids are getting into more trouble, and therefore they're getting more arrested and missing more school time, and that's systemic racism. Bottom line, and let's be very blunt about this, if minority kids are behaving more badly than others. And why wouldn't they if they're coming from broken homes, if they have less supervision in the home, less support at home? That's not systemic racism. No one told people to get pregnant outside of wedlock. No one told parents, dads, to walk away from their families. But still, if you're going to pretend that enforcing school discipline is now racist, you're going to get a lot more of this, and you're the ones who are opening the door for it, not anybody else. Don't blame this on the United States of America or the Constitution or slavery or the Founding Fathers. Blame it exclusively on your unwillingness to give those people who lack structure the structure they need. It's time now for some real education. All week here on the Dr. Duke Show, we're showcasing our Battles of America series, and we are very proud of it. These short videos are designed to educate adults and children alike on some of the greatest battles in American military history. Today, we're looking at the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775 and its deep significance to the Revolutionary War. Enjoy the clip.
Battles of America, Bunker Hill. In April of 1775, the battles of Lexington and Concord ended. The colonials followed the British back to Boston, Massachusetts, and laid siege on the city with a low supply of cannons, firearms, and artillery. Recognizing the need to control access to Boston Harbor, the British planned to occupy Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill. After catching wind of the British plan, 1,200 colonials under the command of William Prescott rushed to the hills and built fortifications during the night. On the morning of June 17, 1775, the British awoke to find the colonials already occupying the hills. The British forces, confident in their superior training and equipment, expected to take the hills with relative ease. Led by Commander William Howe, the British dispatched 2,400 troops toward Breed's Hill. As the colonials were preparing for battle, Dr. Joseph Warren joined the fight and was given command of the troops. However, he turned it down and fought alongside the others, as to him, it was a privilege to serve under General Prescott. Because of the shortage of ammunition, the colonial militia was given the famous order, "Hold your fire until you see the whites of their eyes," in order to maximize British casualties. The resourceful colonials thwarted the first two British assaults, inflicting significant casualties on the Redcoats. However, now depleted of ammunition, the Americans were forced to retreat during the third onslaught, giving the British a tactical victory. While the Americans sustained a fair amount of casualties, including Dr. Joseph Warren, the British amassed thousands of casualties, which sent a clear message that the colonial militia was a force to be reckoned with. Despite the technical victory for the British, the conflict seemed more like a defeat. Almost half of their soldiers on that day were killed or wounded. The Battle of Bunker Hill, actually fought mainly on Breed's Hill, greatly boosted the confidence of the undertrained and poorly supplied American forces. Despite being outnumbered, the Americans stood up to the best the British had to offer and lived to fight another day. The promise of independence and liberty remained alive and well, sustained and bolstered by the victory at Bunker Hill.
Now, I do want to take a moment to thank our Patriot Club members for making that video and the other videos possible. Their financial support does provide the resources to bring these incredible stories to life for everyone to enjoy. And in fact, we have many more battles to produce because there have been, well, many more wars and many more battles. So all we need is your financial help to make them actually happen. If you're not already a member, please consider joining our Patriot Club with a $99 gift to help us continue producing the Battles of America series. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get started.
And that wraps up this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends, and that means don't beat people up.